So Neil persuades her to go with him. She doesn't want to go. She just found out via television. The whole world knows what he is now. She's got no excuses. She knows exactly what he is. It's been all over the news. He's not a salesman. He doesn't sell metals. It's what I don't do. I don't sell metals. And he's a murderer. Killed folk, people that he's involved with get killed. He oversees the execution of people just trying to do their job. He's horrible. He's horrible as Neil Macaulay, but Edie has fallen in love with him before she knew what he was, before she knew why he wanted her to run away with him. And she agreed to run away with him, and now she knows why he needs to run away. She's, having serious second thoughts. She's just like, what have I got involved in here? And she just kind of is in a trance. He's constantly trying to persuade her, but she kind of goes along with him just towards where the aeroplane is going to take them to New Zealand and their new life in New Zealand. But she's not convinced at all, and he stops on the Palisades. And it's a very Michael Mann scene. It's very, the trees are all uplit. Lovely kind of electronic music twanging away there, and Elliot Goldenthal music, and it's Robert De Niro and Amy Brenneman being absolutely epic as Neil and Edie. And Neil persuades her, one of the loveliest speeches ever, and he persuades her, and she comes back to him. She goes back to him. She decides. She turns there and then, and she's on board. She votes for him. Basically, she votes for him. And it's maybe for a minute or 2 minutes that now she's fully invested in him again, and she's given him her blessing, if you like. They're in the car, and he is driving towards the light. This is the way Michael Mann shoots De Niro, just driving the car along the freeway towards the light, and then he just veers off. He just turns and he veers off, and he goes down the off-ramp towards the darkness, because he has to get revenge, because he has to sort somebody out that wronged him, and he did. Wayne Grow was horrific, but it's something that he brought about. Neil's actions, he'd actually brought about that. He'd brought that into his colleagues' families' lives. He'd ruined their lives. It was through his actions, and here he's going to kill the guy who's checked into the hotel marquee under the name Jameson, because he feels that somehow something he's got to do, because he's essentially small-minded. And he takes this, and Edie's like, what's happening? Oh, it's going to be fine. And so she still goes along with it, and then she's left in the car on her own in a hotel that he's going to turn into a crime scene. Just outside a hotel next to the airport that he's going to turn into an absolute crime scene, and he goes and he wreaks carnage in that hotel. And when he comes back out, she looks at him, and at that point, the heat that's always been around the corner, it arrives. The heat is coming around the corner on 30 Seconds Flat in the shape of Al Pacino playing Vincent Hanna, Detective Vincent Hanna, and he just looks at her and he walks away. He leaves her because and she's looking at him going, where do you go? Why are you doing this to me? And it's just like, that's just the way I am. I always look after number one. I've always got to look after myself. And off he goes. And the law catches up with him and the law kills him. But she's left an ostensibly lovely person. A lovely person. Edie, she's left in that car park, in that car. She's going to be taken in by the police. She's now what they call an accessory after the fact. And it's going to ruin her life. Her life is ruined anyway, despite being an innocent bystander, despite just going with what she thought was easiest, and the guilt she'll have to live with. I'm always talking about heat, aren't I? I'm always talking about heat on these podcasts. A Michael Mann film, 1995 LA crime saga. Hi folks, I'm sorry this pod's taking so long to get out there. You're lucky if you're going to have time to even watch this before the game kicks off in Piraeus tonight. Piraeus, it's Greece, right? Alec, it's all Greek to me. It's all Greek. That'll be a good one. Slip that in there somewhere. It's all Greek to me. That's quite good. And beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Greeks bearing gifts. That's the hoi polloi, that one. But Greeks bearing gifts because Olympiacos, they basically, I'm hearing that they sit back and invite you on. So beware of the gift of the space they're giving us on the park. They're going to hit us in a counter attack. That's their game. What else could you say to make this sound like a really slick podcast? Greece is the word. It's got groove, it's got meaning. Greece is the time, it's the place, it's the motion. Greece is the way we are feeling. Yeah, I should say that kind of stuff. It's just the press conference. The presser was a bit later last night, and it just pushed me over the edge. I always wait for the presser before I do the preview, and I was already depressed, and that just made things worse. And it was just go to bed so I wake up this morning, don't have time to get it done very first thing in the morning. Stuff to do during the day. And it gets to this point where but I have to say I have to do the preview pod now because it just means there'll be so much stuff to do in the post-match reaction pod. I don't have to do it. I feel the need to get it out there, and it's got to be said. That it would make that 3 hours long. So, sorry about the delay, folks. This is your Fat Egg. Rangers are back for their fourth game in this Europa League group stage. It's not a Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. It's not Group 1, Group 2, Group 3 like in the Nations League. It's just one group, the Europa League group stage that's ongoing. It's our fourth 36-team group, this new format of the Europa League, which, as you know, kind of upsets me a bit, but I'm already starting to get used to it. Just an old man having to adjust to the way things are. Preview pod coming to you in association with I am sponsored by Coincidences, Football and Coincidences, second-hand football and coincidences. And I'll just second-hand football and coincidences, stuff that I've told you before that I thought was a brilliant coincidence, and I get zero comeback whatsoever. I put this on Twitter last season, and I don't think I got a single like. I don't know if it's the way I worded it, but luckily, because this is a last-minute preview pod, you'll barely have time to see this before the game actually kicks off. It's just so I can get the stuff out of my system. I can make it quite kind of dynamic. I've got my laptop here because there's various things I'm going to have to read out. I was going to have to read out anyway, no matter how organised I was for this podcast. I've got a jotter here as well with stuff written down on it. I'm going to say that. So it gives it that kind of election night special feel. It's all vibrant, it's happening. I've got the figures, got the graph behind me here. As you can see, the latest figures say, the latest figures I've got, right? I said this last season. Again, we're playing Olympiacos. Last summer, as you know, we had a different manager. They had a different manager, and they were going to change the manager again. We played Olympiacos in a pre-season friendly. Michael Beale, and we played Hamburg the game before that, the friendly before that. The only two pre-season friendlies I saw, in fact, the last two pre-season friendlies I saw, because I only go to Ibrox and Hampden. I don't only go to home games, and there's been none at home this season for very good reasons. So the last two friendly matches I saw in football were Rangers playing Olympiacos, and before that, days before that, on the Saturday, it was Hamburg, HSV, HSV, Hamburger Sportverein, whatever they're called. You know who I'm talking about. And straight away I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that rings a bell. And I looked it up, and sure enough, Hamburg at Olympiacos is the biggest crowd ever for a match in Greece. The Greeks seem pretty crazy about the old football. Pyrotechnics, they invented it. The word, no, the actual, the Chinese, I think, invented the fireworks and that, but the Greeks invented, we can say it now, you can say the world we live in now, if something else begins with a P, the pyro being putatively proffered by the Proddies and Piraeus tonight, but it's, right, looking at mad about football, and I looked up that the biggest crowd ever at a football match in Greece, 75,263, and the biggest crowd ever at a football match in Scotland, we had a couple of them, it's virtually twice that. But Scotland is very special when it comes to the football crowds. We really do love our football. And I thought, that's quite a bit, it was at the National Stadium. So Olympiacos drew Hamburger, I'm just going to keep calling them Hamburg, right, in the 1982-83 European Cup, which Hamburg won, the only time they've won it. And they won the final. They come back later on for the final against Juventus, and it was played in the National Stadium, the Olympic Stadium in Athens. Felix Magath 1-0. Juventus were supposed to win it. Not a great Juventus team, Paolo Rossi and all that kind of stuff. But 1983, it is, Hamburg did the business, but they'd been at that stadium earlier because Olympiacos, knowing there's going to be a big crowd, a big interest, they moved the game from their home, the Karaiskakis Stadium, where we'll be playing tonight. They moved it to the National Stadium, also in Athens, and it's got the big capacity. So that record attendance, 1982-83 season, still in the year 1982, Olympiacos versus HSV, it's variously recorded as 75,223, and 75,263. I'm reading this off my own notes here, because I did mention this, my own tweet from last year. 75,223 or 75,263, just over 75,000. So we played Hamburg on the Saturday last season, HSV. We played them at Ibrox Inferno. I was at that. The crowd was 46,542. A few days later, we play Olympiacos at Ibrox, and the crowd is 29,007. Aggregate between the two games of 75,549. Just slightly more than the record crowd ever at a game in Greece, which was between Olympiacos and HSV. I thought that was a great coincidence. I thought that was fantastic. I get 0 likes, and I can feel he's switching off already, and that might be for the best. When the stuff I'm going to have to discuss just shortly. But I have second-hand football coincidences. I'm sponsored by, and there'll be maybe another one of them or two at least throughout the course of this podcast. I'm also sponsored, as you know, by Gersnet, and just a Gersnet podcast. But most of you that are on here will know me through Gersnet, So I owe everything to Gersnet, and I just want to say sorry. I'm sorry, right? I was on Gersnet podcast on Sunday night. Okay, I was on the Gersnet podcast on Sunday night. And I just noticed some folk, I don't want to make a big deal of this because it's just generally flying under the radar, and no doubt there's a lot of folk would want to turn it into a big thing. I might have said something that kind of sounded like every Rangers fan who doesn't like James Tavernier is a racist or a member of the KKK or some. I might have said something like, if you support Rangers, the only reason you have for wanting James Tavernier dropped is if your hero's Hitler. It was something kind of along, just subtle, just a kind of, and people have taken this the wrong way. People have started making out that I was trying to say something bad, about the Rangers support. Me, no way. Yeah, I'd better clarify. I'd better apologise. This is time for the notepad. I was talking about Tav, on the pod on Sunday night with Rob and Alan, and Frankie's doing the feedback, the live feedback, and I was just talking about various reasons that Tav might be. I don't want to do it. So many podcasts out there that are just paraphrasing. They just paraphrase. They'll just go, yeah, James Tavernier is playing really badly right now. The manager needs to start winning this and winning that if he's going to get there. And you're like, tell us something we don't know. And all I ever do is tell you stuff you already know as well. I'm no great podder, but I try in my own clumsy way to throw. Even if I can only paraphrase, I'll try and give you my personal feelings on it, or some sort of insight. For me, it's always been much more important when someone's really obvious, like Tav's not playing well just now, to say why that might be the case, and why the answer might not be just getting rid of him. Why there's a chance he could come back and all that. And I'm at a stage now where I just think Tav just needs to go in January for his sake, for everybody's sake. I don't necessarily mean that I think that's the right thing to do. I think it's just got to that stage. And I started trying to explain why. And halfway, I've been doing, like last year, I think I did about 90 videos for Gersnet last season, and about 70 of them were on my own because everybody hates me and I'm a knob. But they don't, and I am. But I'll do a lot of post-match reaction pods and blah, blah, blah. Just something kind of fell into, And so I'm doing stuff on my own, and then I'm doing this wee podcast channel here on my own, So I get used to talking on my own and just having the floor to myself. I can decide when I'm stopping saying something, when I start saying something. But when I'm back on Gersnet this season on the Sunday night, but you're talking to, there's 2 other guys there, 3 that have given up their night, their spare time, and also everybody who's listening has given up their spare time for nothing to listen to you. And I was like, I better cut myself short here. I realised I was going to go on a major rant about Tav, and I thought, I have to cut this short. And I cut it short. But I threw in the various things that I wanted to say about him, about his situation just now. And it was only the next day. I can't look at the live comments, the live feed. I can barely work the Zoom connection to be on Gersnet. I am terrible. As you can see by the state, everything should be back to front in the background here. At some point, if I start talking too long in this pod, and I will, my mouth will go out of sync with the vision that is my face on, we'll start getting out of sync with the sound coming out my mouth. because I don't know how to delete. I don't want to delete the 2,000 photographs I've got of every game I've been to at Ibrox and Hampden for the last 20 years, and my 15 holidays I've had in that time. The capacity, I'm not technically very good, so I can't do the thing of watching the live feed. You get live comments when it's a live podcast. Folk are, sending in comments, and it's all, I know half these guys like they're pals. I've never met them because just talking to them through the years on Gersnet, they're on the live feedback, but also they'll do comments sometimes just under the once I've finished the pod. There'll be comments they leave underneath in the comment section, like you can do here. If you haven't died aboard them already, and I went into the next day. I went into the comments, and I hadn't noticed people would, had a wee problem with what I'd said. And I looked at the comments the next day that were actually underneath, and somebody had said, "Oh, I like you're talking crap. You try to say Tav's a good player or whatever." And I'm like, fair enough. I'm not trying. He has been a good player, but he's, the manager was happy with that team the other day. Shouldn't he be? That's fine. And then somebody said, using racism or using race as an excuse is really sad. And I'm like, oh no. No, that's not. So I went in, and you can look at the live comments in retrospect. You can look at them the next day. I only discovered how to do this last year. It's quite good. And it's one of the things that makes your heart sink, but also raises your heart. Because I know folk know me on the pod, it's no like, oh my God, I can't believe this, I'll never be back on Gersnet again. It's just a bunch of troops giving it. Just a bunch of the troops saying, Alec, shut up. Alec, you're talking shite. Alec, no. It's like basically taxi, him. That's you're talking shit. And I didn't realise exactly what I'd said, and I did say it. I did say, and I've written this down. If you go into Sunday's pod on Gersnet, it's myself, Rob, Alan, and it's about 48, 49 minutes in. I think Rob asks me about Tav and the situation with him. I'm being subbed off with like half an hour to go or 20 odd minutes to go on Sunday. Is this the end for him or whatever? And I'm just trying to throw up every possible scenario as to why. I don't think I've actually got into saying, but he is playing poorly and he's got to get rested. He's going to have to get back up to full fitness if he's going to be as regular as he used to be in the first team. And what was it? I brought up the Black History Month thing. He'd done a video for Black History Month. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a segue again. You know what this feels like? See, in April 1988, we were playing Hearts at Ibrox, 87-88 season. We'd won the league the previous season under Souness, his first full season in charge of Rangers as soon as Revolution in full flow, but we kind of struggled the following season a wee bit. Celtic won the double, 87-88 season. And Hearts ended up finishing second. It was kind of neck and neck between us and Hearts for second place. Quite late, I think it was April-ish. The Hearts came to Ibrox and they beat us 2-1. And their winner that day was it was John Robertson for the penalty spot. And I think you can get this. It's Jock Brown, Sports Scene. If you look it up, I think it's 2nd April. So it's 11. It was my 11 years today, since my first Rangers game. And by this point, I'm like 18. I'll be 19 in a few months. I'm drinking my pals and all that, and I get bigger. And I only had that season ticket in the very front. It's about 3 rows to the front of the Copeland Road stand. I only had that season ticket for that season, because I was just young guy, jobs and what have you, and not earning a lot of money. But me and my mate Norky for Salkits, and John Robertson got up to take the penalty, and he'd been all across the papers, the Daily Record and what have you, that everybody still watched in those days. It was still read, all the papers in the days. And he'd been across all the papers because he was wanting more money or he was going to go to Newcastle. John Robertson was great form, great heart striker, John Robertson, legend. Great Scotland striker as well. So he's stepping up to take the penalty that's going to basically put the game out of our reach. Or it's going to put Hearts 2 goals in front or 2-1 up. I can't remember what the score was. They won 2-1. It was the winner. He's about to score the winner. For the penalty spot, and as he's lining it up, I'm thinking, oh my God. And there's a boy sat just along for me that whole season, and the only thing he ever shouted, the only noise he ever made all season, he was only 2 or 3 seats along the same row as me, and he would get up, and he would, the 2 times we played Dundee United at Ibrox, there's only one United, and that's a fucking biscuit. Because at that time, the United biscuit, I don't think United biscuit's still on the go, but there was a biscuit called a United. You get packs of these biscuits called Uniteds. Quite a nice chocolate biscuit. Blue and white colouring on it, but he's only one United, and it's a fucking biscuit. And he would stand there, and everybody kind of go, mate, I know what you mean, but I felt kind of sorry for the fella, So I've obviously a few drinks or whatever. I think I'm being pure gallus. And John Robertson's line up to it, and I think I'm just going to have a fucking word here, because he's totally within earshot. This season ticket, it was just to, as I'm looking at it, the Copeland Road. You're basically looking through the nets for most of the game, and slightly to the left, slightly towards the main stand side. But I'm right next to it. It's right behind the goals, so they're all getting ready to take the penalty. And just I don't know if Graham Roberts was doing that thing of walking in front of the ball when it's on the spot to try and put off Robertson, but he was walking about in front of my eye line, Graham Roberts. So I've got up and I've just pointed, at John Robertson, and I've shouted, "Aye, you're nothing but a money grabbing wee bastard, Roberts. Sin. Everybody just turns around and looks at what? He's slagged it. Oh no, he meant John Robertson, but he's got it very, very, very wrong. And the boy who did the United biscuit thing, he's looking at me like, mate, that part is absolute. You have made a total arse of yourself there. He's like feeling really sorry for me on it. If you watch the footage, John Robertson scores a penalty, and he walks up to me. He heard me. He runs up to the Copeland and is right fucking up, and it's me that he's having a go at, and I couldn't even get the insult right. Not only did it not put him off, scored the penalty, I ended up slagging Graham Roberts, who was, a few home games later, Graham Souness was getting rid of Graham Roberts as well. But that's the kind of feeling that I had on Sunday when I was reading these comments, going, "What I've said, what?" And I did say it. I went back and I double checked, and I was like, "Aye," and I didn't finish my point. The point I was trying to make, and I made it very bad. I did say, and I've got it written down here. I forget Tav, because he'd done the whole thing with Black History Month. Tav did a film for Black History Month. For Rangers TV. Rangers made him do it. It was 11 and a half minutes long. It's still there. You can go and see it on the official Rangers site. And I'm saying, I'm talking about the abuse he was getting under that video. There are folks slagging off the video and how it's a bit insensitive. And for some people, there is a definite thing just now that this woke has become an accusation. Now, that's a conversation we can have. It's dreary, it's boring. We all feel very hot under the collar about it, and I can have that conversation on a case by case basis with anybody who wants to. But there's this idea, I think, that being actively concerned about minorities and trying to be sensitive towards the language used when talking about people from an ethnic minority. There's a thing that that's just woke. It's kind of mamby-pamby. I'm actually saying this in the video on Sunday night, in the pod on Sunday night, but it's different from racism. Just to be able to say, I don't care. And a lot of times it's offered as an antidote to racism. It's I don't actually care what colour anybody is. So I'm not going to, and it can be patronising, and I've definitely been involved in conversations and things where with guys for ethnic minorities who are actually more comfortable with the guy sitting there being racist towards them because they can just be racist back to him, and it's a big blowout, and it's almost like an icebreaker, but that's not the situation. And politicians and that start going down the same route, it gets dangerous. And anybody in that same situation, but it's just a kind of, real life, as we all like to talk about, somebody coming along and saying to somebody, "Oh, I'm very sensitive to your, political needs," and all that. The person from the ethnic minority is just like, what a wank. They feel it's a kind of reverse racism. So I get the nuances of what it's like in real life. But there was a lot of people coming in under this video that Tav did. I'm going to read out a few of the comments. If you want to, the Olympiacos stuff's going to last 5 minutes, and it's going to be towards the end of the video. So please fast forward if you want to, because I'm having to apologise here. So I'm quite happy if you fast forward past this bit. But Tav's, did an 11 and a half minutes thing with Black History Month, and it's not given an interview for weeks, and now this, obviously disappointed. So taking about talking about the fact that Tav always says he's disappointed after a defeat. Somebody else gets back. I wish Tav was history. And there's lots of somebody else, like some of our fans, honestly, and there's lots of feedback from people who are upset with it. Some of these comments are weirdos. Rangers is a club for all. Ashamed to read some of the comments on here. So there you go. Guaranteed Tav mucks up against Aberdeen on Wednesday. Fair enough, it did actually. That did come true. Celebrating being second best proves your mentality, James. We need winners and trophies. That's what counts. Celebrating winning the hard way. Is Suter getting interviewed for White History Month? That kind of stuff. I mean, it's like we are the majority here. Check your privilege, etc. Laughing my ass off. What is this? We're now getting lectured from a multi-millionaire how hard life is. No, I think he's trying to tell us how hard it can be for your ordinary black person. Only one colour matters, blue, and that's debatable. That's fine, and that's definitely the way we feel about it generally from day to day. Keep the American politics in America. Great interview, great captain. That's a Celtic fan. Nice of him to turn up. Come on, Whites. We get the other 11 months, including Pride. Can't believe he's in our Hall of Fame for taking penalties. It's embarrassing. Not a Tav fan. Our fans make me ashamed to be a Ranger. That's fine. Woke nonsense. Utter woke nonsense. Pandering to government dictates. Can anyone enter a cinema? What the hell's that all about? The worst ever captain of all time in our great club's history. Stuff like that, and there's criticisms there of Tav as captain, but the viciousness of them is out of order in itself. But to do that under a video about Black History Month, it just seems unbelievably insensitive, to the point it's taken it right to the edge of racism. And I had said in the pod, I was trying to offer up reasons that his body language these days is terrible. Probably because he's knackered and he knows he can't get on in the park the same way as we were discussing on the pod. But I was trying to offer up other reasons why, and I'd seen all this stuff, because it wasn't just that, the Black History Month, and then they had it before that semi-final against Motherwell. He does the Premier Sports presser. It's a two-parter, and it was like Tav does his kind of captain's interview, and this is all coming from Rangers fans. The feedback here on the YouTube page, blah blah blah. Don't treat us like idiots. It's not getting beat. It's the effort or lack of you're putting in every game. No fight, passion, urgency or commitment. I mean, for fuck's sake, how do you get to that level? How do you get playing a European final that many passion fight? There is a common denominator as to why Rangers have had 7 managers since 2015, so it's Tav's fault for all that. When you play football, you play for your own pride. This leads to team members feeling the effort. Everyone gets motivated, even if you can't run, at least encourage others, chastise others. Folk tell them how to play the game, Should have been a politician, blah, blah, blah. I'm finding it difficult to listen to this and the performance. There's different folk talking. This guy needs stripped of the captaincy and took out of the Hall of Fame. He does not belong in there with all the winners from our history. Mr. Obviously, because Tav uses the word obviously a lot. I mean, Robert Smith used to use particularly a lot in interviews, and it was funny, because we know that our managers, never mind our players, first and foremost, they are not politicians or diplomats. It'd be handy if they were, but it's stuff like that is going to have an effect on him. If I thought for a second the Rangers support was racist, in general, I wouldn't be supporting Rangers, and I've spent most of my life just like, it's like weddings, funerals, whatever. There is a Celtic fan there who is wetting themselves with excitement because the life becomes really simple. There's a Rangers fan there. Rangers fans are the root of all evil. They're the most bigoted people in the world. I can go in there and seem like a bohemian freedom fighter, by having a go at this. And you're like, it's just not the case, mate. Half my family's Catholic, but it's just... and that half the world is just completely. I know Celtic supporters whose dads are Rangers supporters, and vice versa and stuff. It's just a lot of nonsense. So there's no way. I mean, I was at Mark Walter's debut in Scottish football, and I've also been at Rangers games before that in the past where black players for opposition were abusing it. So to try and say there's no racism, and it's certainly come back with full force over the last few years. Not full force, but it's certainly come back to a certain degree. All I was just trying to say was that, and I did say there's only for a few Rangers supporters are a certain amount. I meant to say tiny. I'm talking like a dozen or something like that out the entire Rangers support who will be actively racist in the same way that you know, like the guys who brought that SS flag or whatever. You know, clowns that we chased, we hunted. Do you know what I mean? Just like we hunted the BNP back in the day. Just like the same, you know, we've seen Hib supporters being, you know, dug up on television, showing mouthing, you know, black so and so and whatever. You've seen racism. There's a certain minority of idiots at every club, and this is one. It's at every club in the world, certainly in this country, who are out and out racist and just haven't got the message yet about how pointless that is. And I was just trying to say that could be a factor, and then go on and explain the thing about how, you know, it's for a lot of folk there's a war. I did mention something about woke, but I was getting myself all confused, and it just, I left it at that point of saying there's a certain number of Rangers supporters are racist, and that was definitely going to be a factor, you know, in their criticism of James Tavernier. It's not doing James Tavernier any favours, it's certainly not doing me any favours, and it's just not true. It's just not true in terms of, I'm trying to say Rangers supporters like I probably get so many, we love our black players, we love all our players, we definitely do, and I do just see them as blue. And I started off by saying I forget that Tav is black until someone points it out to me, and it's only been pointed out in a positive way. You know, I don't mean somebody's gone up, but there's a few Rangers fans. I know I'll get reactions to certain things I say on Twitter, and you go in and look at the guy's account, and there's a lot of Tommy Robinson stuff, and I know a lot of folk think Tommy Robinson's bringing a truth that they got. That's nonsense, but there's certain things in there. There's certain things, out and out racist stuff. So you just, I'll talk to you about that if you want to. I'll give you my point of view. We can have a wee discussion, but you're verging towards a racism there that makes me suspicious sometimes at the level of abuse it's dished to Tav, who I think is unfortunate in being caught up in a time when Rangers are having to change. You know, he is a Hall of Fame member because Rangers have been such a low because of what happened in 2012, and people don't want to deal with that. We'll deal with it, I think, once we're back, once we know we're winning titles all the time. Again, I think we'll then be comfortable enough to deal with it, but Tav's unfortunate to be stuck in a situation where folk don't want to realise why Rangers aren't retaining the title every season, and like he becomes abused for it. And that was just one of the reasons I thought he might be. He goes out and does a thing for Black History Month, which you can tell by what he said at the beginning of that, he's uncomfortable doing it as well. He doesn't want it to be a Black History Month. Same as the Morgan Freeman thing, you know, and Les Ferdinand talking about gesture politics of taking the knee and what have you. If you're black, you can have a problem with that. But it's so many white folk come in and say, well, Edwin Morgan Freeman, I'm obsessed with Scottish poets. Morgan Freeman hates, you know, Black History Month. Yeah, but he is black. He's allowed to hate it if he wants. There's a whole lot of stuff in it. So that's half an hour into this pod. I know I've done this talking about myself. I was hangry. Look, it was Sunday. I'd done the post-match reaction pod for this after the game. I Hampden in the semi-final. Never really thought about it. The time I got home and all that, I got myself. I didn't really get a chance to. By the time I basically went on that pod at 9:30 on Sunday night, all I'd had to eat that day was 4 slabs of Weetabix with half a pint of semi-skimmed milk and a banana, chopped into it, 3 boiled eggs, 4 slices of toast, a couple of the chicken drumsticks that I deliberately hadn't eaten the night before because I was making room for my 6-pack of McCoys, a fun-size Snickers, a pint of water and a Scotch pie, a microwave lasagna for Morrison's, and a thing of Cherry Bakewell. That's all I'd had. I was starving. Time I went on that pod, you know the whole Snickers advert. See, it's back to front with you know, Joan Collins and Stephanie Beecham. A bags of Stephanie Beecham. You know, you're a diva when you're angry. I'm just I was cutting myself off because I was talking too long. I'm doing just now, and I cut myself off at the wrong point. Please don't. My apologies to Gersnet, and apologies to. See if you don't think James Tavernier's a problem because he's black, well then you're no racist. It's no you I'm talking about then, is it? But I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry that was worded really badly. Yeah, my name's Alec Anderson. What else should I be? All apologies. What else should I say? Everyone is. Oh no, I can't even. That's going to come across wrong as well. It's Kurt Cobain, Sinead O'Connor. Right. Yes, we are playing the Piraean, Prodi's proffering the Pyro and the Pyro. No, but the Pyro, when they invented it, the Greeks. They didn't invent the Greeks. Didn't invent the Pyro. Chinese invented Pyro. The Greeks, they invented it. And Father Ted, used to be uni with I stayed because I was a mature student. I was like a few years old. I was still in my early 20s before I went to uni. But so I ended up hanging about with guys who went to uni straight from school and are now doing PhDs and stuff like that. And one of them was a Greek student, Fotis Stavropoulos, if you're out there, Fotis, all the best mates. Nice to talk to you again. We used to play fives and all that, and we'd kick about each other's flats. There's a whole crowd of us. And Fotis was an AEK Athens fan, and obviously I'd been at the game. It was just a few years earlier where they'd put us at the qualifiers at the European Cup, and I wore that top. I've got hanging up behind me. The Olympiacos top was a wind-up, and the last day we played fives every week, and then the last day, well, 2 or 3 times a week sometimes, but the last game we had amongst ourselves, amongst the pals, I thought it'd be funny to turn up in this Olympiacos top, because and he wasn't happy at all. It was not happy at all, and I do these things throughout my entire life. I'm just a dick, basically. I'm just a fucking dick who upsets the very people he doesn't want to upset. So that was. I've had a bad experience of Greek food. Quite a few bad experiences, and they didn't. But that's Father Ted. When we were all hanging in the episode came out, the homosexuality. They invented it. There was the Greeks. They invented it, Father, and that used to get shouted at him a lot. Photos, because you know what guys are like, just really on PC, and it's fun, isn't it? It's fun to So we're playing Olympiacos of Piraeus, and they invented it. They didn't invent pyro. They invented the word for pyro. The Chinese invented fireworks and what have you. But after all that stuff, do you know it's Hampden on Sunday? The false douchey, and fair enough, they're having a go at Celtic and Aberdeen for doing the same thing on Saturday night. When the teams are coming down the tunnel, they've got the big black box things that it's about Scotland games, and I've been going to Hampden all season. I've seen 2 Scotland games at Hampden this season, a friendly against Finland in June as well. The same as like the Scottish Cup final and League Cup semis and that. The authorities, Hampden themselves, bring out these big black boxes that shoot these flames up higher than the main stand. And they're on the pitch, either side of the players coming out. There was no harm done with the pyro. The fireworks a bad move, but the pyro looked fantastic. And it's pyrotechnics. Pyrotechnics comes from every word we've got. Basically, comes from the Greek, doesn't it? Pyro, the root word, the prefix pyro, meaning my hair's on fire because the guy behind me's brought some pyro to the football. And technics is from the Greek techne, which is, that's Greek for VAR. Technic. VAR. So that's everything's been invented by the Greeks in the port of Piraeus. The triremes. The triremes used to leave for there to go in for the Peloponnesian War and to invade Troy. I don't know, Helena, Troy. It's basically Piraeus is a kind of, it's the port for the capitals. It's Leith. Is it the Greek Leith? I think it's more like the Greek, but it's actually more like kind of the Greek. The Hellenic Port Glasgow, or the Pythagorean Helens, but I don't. It's one of the. It's the Helena Troy we could have gone to invade Troy from Piraeus on the triremes. From there they probably went across the land. Cause I think Troy's in Anatolia, wasn't it? It's in somewhere in modern day Turkey, and they don't get on with the Turks, do they? The Greeks. There's a bit of rivalry. So just as well, Hadji is not in the European squad because he was born in Istanbul, wasn't he, Yanis Hadji? First time I saw a Greek side was AEK Athens, 94-95. We've been playing Greek teams in Europe for 30 years. I was at the cinema, I think it was at GFT as well, with my girlfriend at the time, and we, I don't know why, I couldn't have been live on telly or something like that. I was really committed to the whole girlfriend thing. I went through a wee phase of that, and I'd be like 25, whatever, and we went to see someone and I come back out and just, I don't know how I checked it. I don't know what I did, because you didn't have phones in the days. But I found we'd get beat 2-0 anyway. And I remember seeing the goals on television. It's the classic Andy Gorham thing, where both the shots from AEK Athens, Andy's just like, he's doing that thing where he's, before the ball's even in the back of the net, he's out shouting at his defence. Because a goalkeeper who's great also knows when he's beat. That's one of the other things I have to apologise for. I made a lot of mistakes. On my podcast, my post-match reaction pod, on Sunday, I talked about how our second goal came from a move sweeping down the left hand side. Now I was over at the right hand side. I was over on our right wing at that point in time, and it all happened right in front of me. The ball coming to Czerny. I know it started in the left with a bit, Nico Rask and all that working it out over to Czerny. But he was right in front of me, Czerny, as he come down the right hand side. And it goes over. I lost it. I had no idea what I was talking about. And then I'm on the pod on Sunday night, and as well as saying all Rangers fans on the KKK, there's no way Rangers fans are the same as the KKK. We are far, far worse. Because they pit on who they know what they're doing. They know how bad their part of it. Stuff is doing really dodgy. So they get the pillowcases to hide it. We're out in the open. We don't care. We're absolutely men. We're much worse than them. We should get a wee thing as well. The KKK, you can make the symbol with your fingers and all that. So we should get a wee kind of RFC type thing going. Scare the hell out of them. I was over in Tennessee. I go on holiday to States. So I was in Tennessee in, what was it, March, April this year. The month before I got there, a month earlier, they'd just banned marriage between first cousins. And it's probably going to be unbanned now. So I'm not walking about in a kind of dwam of, I've been attacked by, Scottish Asian guys. I've had my face punched and all that, and the police wanted me to, take them out to court and stuff like that. I've been through. I can talk to you about stats. I'm not. And I'm on Sunday night on the podcast. Jack Butland. I ripped into Jack Butland as well because I was hangry. I had nothing to eat. I'm a diva. You're a diva when you've not had had a Snickers after the fives. And I don't actually hate Jack Butland. I'm really glad we've got Jack Butland as a goalkeeper. I just think the treatment he's not getting when he's basically, could be said to have given away the Scottish Cup final, and also didn't come out for that cross for the goal we conceded against Motherwell, and letting FCSB walk the ball into the back of our nets and stuff like that. I think he makes just as many glaring errors as Tav makes, but somehow because he's talking very confidently, but I don't like that kind of stuff. I've got to beat my bonnet about people who don't actually have any more to offer, but if they talk in a very middle class and authoritative way, people will take it in. So it's just a kind of wee stupid thing that I've got about Jack Butland, but mostly it's because he's as due abuse has to put in like the service to Rangers that James Tavernier has, but he doesn't. But no, I'm actually very glad that Jack Butland is our goalkeeper. Why was I talking about Jack Butland? Because Andy Gorham was coming and just letting the ball go in the net. He was just the great saves he made. He could get to anything, but when he knew he couldn't get to it, he didn't even bother trying. He just was out getting stuck into his defence. First time we lost 2 goals, and they came to Ibrox, and I remember them all bouncing about, the Ajax fans at Ibrox, and it was September in Govan, and they're all jumping about with the taps off, and they beat us 1-0 at Ibrox, but they just couldn't get anywhere near them. That was under Walter, the qualifiers for the Champions League, because remember we had that great season, 92-93, then we went out to Levski Sofia, and then we went out to Ajax Athens. The qualifiers, we just couldn't get there at all. The second time we played a Greek side in Europe, I wasn't there. PAOK Salonika, who Olympiacos are playing on Sunday night. 98-99 UEFA Cup, second qualifying round under Dick Advocaat. Remember we played Shelburne, that game down at Tranmere. We're 3-0 down, but ended up beating them 5-3. We played Shelburne, then we put out PAOK, then it was at Beitar Jerusalem, and then we ended up getting Bayer Leverkusen. We beat Bayer Leverkusen in Leverkusen the day Yanis Hadji was born, and we didn't get Parma the first time we went out fairly narrowly to Parma in the UEFA Cup. We played like 15 games, we're still only in the third round. And the following season, of course, we put Parma out the Champions League qualifiers. But we beat them. I wasn't at the game again. Didn't have a lot of money in those days, 98-99. We beat them 2-0 at Ibrox in the first leg. Rod Wallace and Andrei Kanchelskis scoring late, the second half anyway. And then went over to La Tumba, the infamous venue in Salonika. Amazing atmosphere, really intimidating, and we drew 0-0. I remember that was an afternoon game as well. I think earlier than this one. It was 5:45 tonight our time, the kick-off. I think it was an actual afternoon kick-off back here, that one. I remember sitting watching that, and it was dead as a dodo, that game, and it was great. So that meant we went through. Third time I saw a Greek side, Panathinaikos. The second time I saw a Greek side, third time Rangers played Greeks in Europe. Panathinaikos, the 2003-2004 Champions League. And remember, in that 2003-2004 Champions League, that Rangers and Celtic, the old firm, and the Hoy, Megaloi, Tres, the three big Greek sides, were all in the Champions League group stages. all finished bottom or third, and Celtic and the third place dropped into the UEFA Cup. Celtic and Panathinaikos, the green and white, they've got a 3-leaf clover or something. Panathinaikos, they were the ones that went through. Obviously, a UEFA conspiracy. They were the two ones that finished third. Everybody else, AEK, Olympiacos, and ourselves finished bottom of our group, and out we went. But we finished bottom of our group because Panathinaikos, and they came out. So we went over there. We drew one each over there. Emerson, the Brazilian, scoring for Rangers. Memphis scored against Parma. Emerson rakes it in against Emerson Lake and Palmer joke in the making there. I'll come back to you with that one when it's done. We drew one each in the first game. The first time we played Panathinaikos in that group anyway was over in Panathinaikos grounds, and they came to Ibrox. They maybe went down to 10 men in the second half and started playing brilliant when they went down to 10 men. I think it might be Gumas who gets sent off. I'm sure he's a guy that scores against us in the UEFA Cup a few years later, but he gets sent off, and then they equalised right late on as well. You could see it coming. It was like, I had a chance to actually win that game there away from home. Then they came to Ibrox. We thought, right, we're going to be fine here. Michael Moles, he scored early on. Certainly scored the first goal. Again, we opened the scoring against Panathinaikos in the return game at Ibrox. We go 1-0 up. Panathinaikos were wearing white with green striping. It's kind of Adidas and all white with green trim. It didn't look too bad. I always notice when there's a green and white strip that I actually quite like. I didn't really like it for very long because they then scored 3 goals and beat us 3-1 to put us bottom of the group and put themselves through in the UEFA Cup. And it was Angelos Bassinas. I remember he hit this shot for the halfway line. I always had a suspicion, talking about goalies, that Stefan Klos was great close up, but was short-sighted. The number of really kind of slow and long-range shots he was beaten by, Stefan Klos, always made me think, I don't think he can see them coming. I think he needs the guys to be in the 18-yard box before he can see the ball. This one was a crackle about Angelos Bassinas. He hit it, and I remembered his name because a year later, less than a year later, he's in the Greece team that wins the Euros. He wins the Euro 2004 final. Angelos Bassinas, a fantastic team. And of course, we saw Panathinaikos again. The third time I'd seen a Greek side, the fourth time Rangers played. The last time we played a Greek side before tonight. In the last 32 we dropped into the UEFA Cup. We had finished third in our Champions League group in 2007, 2008, and we played Panathinaikos first up in the last 32 of the UEFA Cup, and it's 0-0 at Ibrox, so not a lot of goals for Rangers against Greek sides at Ibrox, unless you're Piraeus Salonika, and we had them. Olympiacos won that friendly. I'm talking about last season. They won that 3-1. And we go over to Athens, and it's Bassinas. I'm sure it's the guy who gets sent off against us in the Champions League a few seasons earlier. He opens the scoring for Panathinaikos. It looks like we're going out, and I remember I had to work that day. I couldn't get away from my work, and I'm driving back from my work. The game's on the radio. It's on live, but I couldn't get away to watch it in the telly. So I'm driving back from my work, and I get in the car, and I'm going over the Kingston Bridge. I was driving over the Kingston Bridge and just sweeping round to not go to Kilmarnock, but to go onto the signs for Greenock so I could head off. And Nacho Novo equalises. I think it was 81st minute, 10 minutes to go or something like that, and we hung on to go through in the old away goals that no longer exist. So it's quite a kind of varied thing we've got against Greeks. This is the fifth tie we've got against a Greek side in Europe, and we're on lost one. So we're due to lose this one, but I think it could be a draw this time, and eventually we get to play in Olympiacos, say, in European competition. Greek sides in general, it's quite a thing. I'm talking about the Greeks and inventing stuff, classical, it's all your Ionic, Doric, Corinthian columns and stuff like that. It's quite amazing that the only second time Olympiacos, of course, are the Conference League holders, and they won the Conference League. That was only the second time that last season that a Greek side had got to a European final, and the first time was Panathinaikos. 1971, the European Cup final, and they're playing Ajax. They're playing, they're playing a team that's named after a figure from Greek, Greek mythology, which is quite good. Heracles there in Greece, in the Netherlands as well. Sigma Olomouc. That's about it. So there's a lot. It's quite amazing that they played again, and they played against Ajax in London. It was the first of Ajax's 3 in a row that set them up. Rinus Michels. It's only time Rinus Michels was actually manager of Ajax when they won the European Cup. This is what made his name, the whole total football thing. And the first goal for Ajax, it's in London. It's an old London town at Wembley. And the first goal was scored by a guy called Dick Van Dyke. I remember that, Dick Van Dyke scoring at London. Mary Poppins was still be popular then. It's quite a thing. And the other goal, that was Ari Han. It's sometimes attributed to Ari Han. The second goal Ajax scored that night, but it goes in off. It's a shot that goes in off Capsis. I can't remember the guy's first name. He scores. It's sometimes put down as a Capsis own goal, and I always remembered that because when I was a kid, I was really fascinated by all the teams, all the players who'd scored in the European Cup final, and I went through a wee phase of remembering them, memorising them. So in 2004, there's a Capsis playing for the Greece team. He never played for Panathinaikos. In fact, he did play a short time for Olympiacos, but mostly an Ajax Athens player. And he's the son of the guy. So it's for the family name. He wins Euro 2004. He's part of the Greece team that wins Euro 2004. And he's made up for the fact that his dad's best known for possibly scoring an own goal in the European Cup final. That Panathinaikos team in 71 was managed by Ferenc Puskas, who's the only guy to score 2 hat-tricks in the European Cup final, Champions League final, only guy to score 4 goals in the final of the European Cup / Champions League, the Galloping Major. If you don't know about Puskas, you don't need me to tell you. So he was the manager of Panathinaikos and had involvement with Greek football that saw him going over to Australia, and then he meets Ange Postecoglou. So it's all and Postecoglou is going to be bringing Spurs to it all comes together. Celtic, green and white like Panathinaikos. It never really. It's all just big one circle. Isn't it one big circle? European football. We're going to the Karaiskakis Stadium, which holds just over 30,000. Fearsome venue, where the 71 European Cup Winners' Cup final was played. It didn't look like that at the time. Before its redevelopment, but that's where Chelsea beat Real Madrid after a replay. Talking to Puskas, Chelsea beat Real Madrid after a replay, and that's the team. Chelsea were the holders when we won it in 1972. So I think the only other stadium we've played at where Chelsea have won a European trophy is Do Dragao in Porto. We've drawn both times. We've played at Do Dragao. So there we go. Maybe that means we're going to get a draw tonight. If you're over there and you're seeing anything about number 7 or number 21 Olympiacos, it's in 1981. Another commonality they have with us. 1981, unfortunately, one nobody would want. 21 fans died in a tragedy at Gate 7. We've got Stairway 13, they've got Gate 7. It was a crush, and it sounds very much like what happened at the Ibrox disaster. Except this time they were all rushing. They'd beaten Ajax Athens 6-0. They were all rushing outside to celebrate, and somebody got caught at this gate. And so that's a tragedy that's taking place at that stadium that's still commemorated today. I think it was 20 Olympiacos fans and one Ajax Athens fan who'd just been in with his pal in the home end. So that's absolutely terrible stuff that's happened there. Another coincidence, a nicer one, is that last season also keeping the Greek connection. So Panathinaikos playing against Ajax, and the only other time a Greek side got to a European final. You've got Olympiacos. They won the Conference League, playing the final at Ajax Athens ground. It's in near Philadelphia. What's it called again? The Hagia Sophia, or Hagia Sophia as they call it after, because all the Ajax supporters are representing Constantinople, ancient Greece, the Roman Empire, the Byzantium, the double-headed eagles, so they ought to move when the Ottoman Turks had enough of having Greeks in their city, when they took over Constantinople. But Hagia Sophia get taken over by the Turks, and it became a mosque and what have you. But it's deep stuff. It's deep stuff, and I'm not making it in any way interesting, but it is actually genuinely interesting. But yeah, they play there. So they've won a European trophy playing at. It's very involved. The Greeks, there's always something very Greek when Greeks get to a European final. It's only happened twice, and the only time they've ever won that European final was Olympiacos winning it at the home of one of their hottest rivals, Ajax Athens. I think the rivalry with Panathinaikos is more intense. I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on that. But that's where they won it. They won it last season, beating Fiorentina in the final. So this shirt I've got behind me up here that I wore against my Ajax supporting mate. Olympiacos in their red and white stripes, they won the Conference League at Ajax Stadium. Now that shirt I've got is from 30 years ago, I think, and it's got 1924 on the side of it. Excuse me. It's got 1924 on the side of it. I think this is the 1925. This is a centenary season. So they now say that they were formed in 1925. I think they used to think they were formed in 1924, Whereas Rangers, we won our first European trophy in 1972, at a time we thought we were formed in 1973. So we didn't realise it was our centenary when we won the European trophy. It might still be Olympiacos' centenary, but the both of us played our first European final. We won our first European trophy in what could be our centenary season. And we also played our first European final against Fiorentina, because we played the 61 Cup Winners' Cup final against Fiorentina, who got to the following season's Cup Winners' Cup final as well. Fiorentina lost the final to Atletico Madrid after the first game was at Hampden, a replay in Stuttgart. Fiorentina also lost the second European Cup final, and that was the second Conference League final as well. Ever played. It's quite an amazing thing. So yeah, that's a wee coincidence that we have with them. Their owner just now, Olympiacos' owner, is Evangelos Maranakis, who's the big fat guy, and I can say that because I am a big fat guy myself, who owns Nottingham Forest, shipping magnate, because Piraeus is one of the busiest ports in the world. The manager is Jose Luis Mendilibar. Now, we lost the 2022 Europa League final in the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, Sevilla's ground. The following season, Jose Luis Mendilibar is the Sevilla manager as Sevilla win the 2023 Europa League final, and they beat Roma on penalties. We lost in penalties. They beat Roma on penalties in Budapest. He gets sacked by Sevilla because they're not being good enough in the league, and he ends up becoming Olympiacos' third manager last season, and then wins the 2024 Conference League final. So he's gone for 3 in a row. I know, I meant to have looked into this. I should know this. It'll be somebody else, I think. But I know that Rafa Benitez won the 2004 UEFA Cup with Valencia, and then won the 2005 Champions League with Liverpool. But I don't know if there's it. I think there is somebody else. There's probably a couple of guys. I need to come back to that, who've won European trophies in successive seasons with different teams. But it's quite a feat anyway for Mendilibar, who's a really kind of ordinary footballer, ordinary player, and some ordinary management jobs. I think he's from the Basque region. Certainly spent a lot of time playing and managing in the Basque region, but he just kind of exploded onto the scene with winning 2 European trophies in successive seasons. The guy's in his early 60s. So they beat us 3-1 in that friendly last season. But I think their whole setup is, and it was on the Rangers Review yesterday, and that really pissed me off because there was a few things. Rangers Review, it's a fantastic. If you've seen it, if you're on the Rangers Twitter sphere or Rangers YouTube sphere, whatever social media sphere, you will know about Rangers Review. Obviously, you know that they do a preview where they talk to a chap, or talk to somebody who supports the European opponent that's coming up for Rangers. And this guy was absolutely fantastic. A lovely fella from the States, Greek origin, and great Olympiacos fans. A great website he's got. I knew at least 75% of stuff. I'd already researched it. I knew what the situation was there, and I was going to present it. I think that depressed me as well. That's why I couldn't bother doing it last night, because you'll just think I was copying the guy through it, and I'm not. So I've written down a few of the things. I would never plagiarise anybody. I've written down a few of the things that I had researched already anyway about Olympiacos right now that I could tell. I didn't get them from the Rangers Review. And the first thing is, thanks very much for joining us on the Rangers Review. And the first thing is that they're currently 4th in the Greek Super League. Olympiacos, they've had a bad start domestically. They are trying to. They didn't win the title last season. Didn't win the title the season before that. So for them that's murder, because they've got 4 stars above their crest for having won 40 odd Greek titles. Are far and away the most successful team in Greek football in history, especially crowning it all with that, actually winning a European trophy. They want to win the title, especially in their centenary season, what he thinks a centenary season anyway. And also, thanks very much, Derek. It's a pleasure to be here. They've got PAOK. They've got PAOK still on. They dropped into 4th. I think they temporarily went 2nd because they played their league game on Saturday. They beat a side whose name looks a bit like Olympiacos. They beat them to go temporarily 2nd, I think, on goal difference. And then they dropped. PAOK won the title last season. Then when everybody else caught up with their games on Sunday, they went back down to 4th. I think they're 3 points off the top of the Greek Super League, but they want to get that title won. And they're away to PAOK at La Tumba on Sunday. So maybe they're kind of looking towards that. We're going to be at home to Hearts. We're at home to Heidenheim the night. So I don't know. maybe that will help us. Maybe they'll be a bit more focused on that. Hopefully they'll get cocky because they're thinking, we're a European trophy holder. Who the hell are this mob? We're used to beating the likes of, and they have beaten Braga by 3-0 this season. But they've also played the two sides that we've also played in this Europa League. This happens. The schedules inevitably will coincide for some of the 36 teams in the group. So they've also played Lyon and Malmo, and like us, they beat Malmo away in Sweden, but they only beat them 1-0. And they did it again, same thing. They had like 36% possession or 40% possession, like we did when we went there, just kind of hitting them on the break. They went to Lyon, and as this chap was saying, Rangers Review yesterday, they changed their tactics a bit when they went to, I think it went 3-5-2 or something. They played Lyon away from home, and I think it was 2-0 they lost. They definitely lost anyway. So the same as us, they're on 2 wins and a defeat from their first 3 games, and they're probably looking at this as a chance, more likely to get some points on board. I think they're playing Hoffenheim later on, Karabag, so they've got a few difficult games coming up, and it's difficult to know how difficult they think we're going to be. Apparently, like to sit in, draw teams in, and hit us on the break. And I remember watching them last season against Aston Villa. They've got this chap that plays up front for them, the whole world knows about now, Ayoub El Kabi, who was a kind of run-of-the-mill journeyman pro, Moroccan, and then just hits the heights with Olympiacos, scoring 11 goals, I think, in the knockout stage of last season's Conference League. But I remember the 5 goals that he got across. Was it 6 goals, I think, across the semi-final and the final. He scores a win on the final, the only goal of the final, 4 minutes from the end of time in the Conference League final. This near post header from a beautiful ball that's played in from the left-hand side, and it went to VAR, and it took 4 minutes for VAR to judge that it was actually onside. It was pretty dramatic when the place is full of mad Olympiacos fans. Ayoub El Kabi, he is on fire. Any one of their games I looked at this season, and they're playing 4-2-3-1, but he's the man, he's the one, he's their Dessers, if you like, except that he is scoring all the time. He scored the only goal in Malmo. I think he scored 2 of the goals against Braga. I think he scored the winner against this mob that were playing domestically on Sunday. So their number 9, El Kabi, he is the man, the taxi driver. He's the man to watch. 33, the guy really impressed me. As I say, when they're playing against Aston Villa in the semi-final of the Conference League last season, the game at Villa Park, they just destroyed them. It was I love seeing total hatchet jobs where a team just shows savvy and street smarts, and they sucked Villa in. I think that was their system, Mendilibar's system, at its maximum. Villa were going for them as they should at home, Villa Park. And this is Villa that just beat Bayern Munich, recently, and they just blew them away. And El Kabi got a hat trick and got 2 against him, I think, in the Karaiskakis in the second leg, and that's out Villa went. Santiago Heze is this little Argentinian, plays number 33. He's the kind of Conor Barron. He's the Argentinian Conor Barron that plays him. He's a cracking wee player. He's instrumental in what they did to Villa, instrumental in everything they do. He kind of sits in and just helps. Apparently it's a low block. They hate playing against a low block. This chap was saying on the Rangers Review yesterday. So, and it's definitely seemed like that the few times I saw them last season. They like to be the team that's doing the low block, and then they will go right through you as you advance on them too much and expose yourself. They know how to go right through the middle of your midfield. So, as Derek Clark of the Rangers Review was saying, there's every chance that 2 teams could cancel each other out. They're both managers really good in Europe and are struggling domestically. It's a mirror image of ourselves. The thing is, they have the old home advantage, and that can always be a bit of a problem. Our team tonight, well, you're about the time you see this, you'll know the team probably the time I managed to get this thing posted, if you've even lasted this long on this awful podcast. But we had this whole thing on Sunday where Dessers, Tav and Balogun all went off in the second half, and Rangers got progressively better in the second half. I would like to say that we actually had equalised and had Motherwell pinned back before these players all went off in various stages of the kind of 60th to 67th minute. So it's now like we should have Danilo, Sterling and Casemiro come on for these players respectively, and it's like we should have them starting tonight. There's a body of Rangers fans wanting this. We should get them starting. That's the new way ahead. Casemiro in at centre half, Sterling on for Tav, and Danilo. That's it. He's anything's better than Dessers these days, even though he scored the equaliser on Sunday. That's the way to go. I don't think it's going to happen like that at all. I think we're lucky to see any of them, quite frankly. The manager was pointing that out in his press conference. Tom Lawrence not fit, obviously. That's him out for. You don't just get injured at Rangers these days, and that's you. You're just a wee knock and you're straight back in the team. He's out for the usual 4 weeks. And I'm just looking at sorry, if I sound distracted, it's because I'm getting back on the laptop here to see more proactive, to see more dynamic as this podcast dies a death. Peloponnesian warships. No, I like this. I've done that. Nobody's interested. The Greeks also invented Mykonos. Didn't invent it. That's a place in Greece. These notes are absolutely terrible. So I don't know that the team that starts tonight is going to be that different from Sunday's, except the interesting thing, of course, again, there'll be this big debate. If Tom Lawrence, our number 10, isn't available to play at 10, are we finally going to see... He's done it before. He played against that league game against St Johnstone, Ibrox on the Sunday night. Is Bajrami going to come in and play at number 10 and let us do what we're going to do on that left-hand side? I have a funny feeling it might be the odd. I think a few people have been talking about this. Kieran Dowell is twice 10. He's number 20. He could come in there, but I don't know. I just fancy it to be Diamandi. I think it's got to be Diamandi starting in there. I'd be interested to see what we do on the left-hand side. Ross McCausland, perhaps, who of course has scored away from home for us in Europe already this season. Scored at home for us in Europe last season. I would like to see Diamandi get in there, and just keep Bajrami out on the left hand side as usual. Because I think the way he was talking in that interview, it's like he prefers playing out there, and he's doing okay. I would have Bajrami on the left and just have Diamandi get in at number 10. I think it's the same as Joshua Barry today, so I'm really just plagiarising the Rangers review. But Barron and Raskin's on fire just now, so I'll have the two of them. In the place that invented the word pyrotechnics, have them on fire at the base of our midfield, and it's just Diamandi instead of Tom Lawrence. The manager was talking about how Sterling hasn't been as fit as he was last season. He's not been hitting the heights he was last season, and it's nice to get a wee explanation to maybe dampen down some of the people just thinking, why on earth is Tav playing when we've got Sterling in there? It's not always that straightforward, and I trust the manager to make that decision if it needs to be made. And Tav has definitely been phased out as well, and not for a second am I trying to say Tav is having a great season. I just think there's other reasons that it might not be time to write him off, but I feel as if he should go in January and just let everybody breathe. He wants his testimonial. I want to see him get his testimonial on that. But anyway, I'm not going to start talking about Tav again because I'll just get myself in trouble. Enjoy the game trips. I have talked some amount of nonsense, but at least tonight it's not spiteful nonsense. Or sounded like spiteful nonsense the way it was on Sunday. I'm going to come back with a post-match reaction pod, and hopefully it'll be a lot shorter, a lot more coherent, and less depressing than this preview pod. Enjoy the game, folks.